subscribe. It really helps. And I so much appreciate your support. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Shannon Confidential. I am Shannon, your host, and Shannon Confidential is a podcast about life, love, and everything in between. And today's in between is going to be more or less a spiritual journey. We're going to be speaking with Tonyah Dee. She's the president of YaLight that you can see behind me, and she will take you through her journey. She was in a place of darkness, and she found Christ, and she became a Christ-centered life coach. And YaLight is her business, and she'll explain how she uses the body and different senses and different really unique ways to help you and guide you and take you out of the darkness like she did. And it's a beautiful story. It's going to be a wonderful journey. So come join us on this spiritual ride with Tonyah Dee and YaLight. Okay, here she is, the Tonyah Dee I taught you about with YaLight. She is incredible. Her spiritual journey, what she does, how she uses so many different senses, so many different ways to be a Christ-centered life coach. Oh my gosh, she's just remarkable. Don't go into a trance listening to her talk though, because she is so tranquil with her voice. She's like so spiritual. I love it. So Tonyah Dee, welcome to Shannon Confidential.
Thank you, Shannon. It's just such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, finally, after all this time to finally get you on the show. I'm so excited. I can't wait for people to meet you, learn your journey, what you do. I just felt so much more at peace after our intro call. I want everybody listening and watching to experience exactly what I experienced. So without any more hesitation, I'm going to let you take the floor and tell people your journey, who you are, what you do, how you got here.
Okay. What an interesting question to ask anybody, right? Because it's what part of your journey do you choose? But I'm going to say how I got to this platform of where I'm sharing what I've learned is I experienced a divorce in my childhood, and I ended up with an anxiety disorder and not really aware of it, but over exercising, eating disorder, just all sorts of anxiety, was able to plot through that for about 10 years. And then about 24, when I was 24, I gave my life to Christ. So I was like in the front of the television evangelist, like, come on, do you need help? I was like, yes, I really need help. And I wasn't raised in a religion, and that really changed my life. It was one of these times where you go from kind of a dark place into a more light, elevated place. And I was able to stay there for quite a while until I went through a divorce of my own when I was 40. So it was a really nice journey for a while. Right. And then the anxiety came back. And I had to do a whole nother round of how do I heal this anxiety as an adult. I had healed my childhood anxiety through therapy, a lot of therapy. And as an adult, what I kept reading is I needed to learn to meditate, like anxiety meditation. I'm like, oh, okay, well, how do you do that? So that sent me on a whole nother path. And that's where I've arrived now, is this sort of blend from what I learned in therapy, what I've learned from my walk with Christ, and what I've learned from meditation. And putting it all together has really helped me to do this wellness in a wholeness aspect, like our whole being.
Yeah.
How do we heal that? So that's been my journey.
I have to tell you, I know I had when I was younger, my parents were divorced, and here I am in the second half of my life, and I have been through my own divorce. So I think
Yeah.
what you've been through is so relatable
Mm,
for so
right.
many people. And I say that unfortunately or fortunately, depending, sometimes getting a divorce isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is trauma, it's sadness, it's grief, it's loss. Even if it's just loss of what could have been, even if it's for the right decision, there's still, there's still loss there. There's still change in, there's still grief. So for
Mhm.
you to have this very relatable past, and
Mm,
then you take it to a whole different level. And I can tell you, just as far as me, when I went through my divorce, I never researched going into meditation. I guess I just like clawed my way through it, I suppose. But you went a whole different way. And I think that's what I thought was so magical and spiritual with you, because it was a different way than I did. So I was able to listen to you and how you handled it. And I thought, wow, that was such a better way than the way I did it. And that's why I wanted to bring what you do to people, because there are others out there that might be or are in the middle of going through what you went through, that can do it your way and be enlightened and just do it better. So just explain, how did you then turn this, difficult time in your life into a business?
right. Well, I would say the business aspect came after I had figured out there was a point in my meditation when I was getting up every morning at 4:30. Now, I also took an 8-year Kundalini yoga training
Oh,
after my divorce. So because Kundalini yoga ends in meditation, it was aligned with, okay, I'm going to learn how to meditate. And this actually really helped me. They made us, like, it was part of our program to get up at 4:30 every morning and meditate for 2 hours.
I fall right back to sleep.
Yeah. It was interesting because along with that, they really wanted you to take a cold shower so you wake up. And then what you start to do with Kundalini Yoga was you do mantra. So you sing these chants. And what I ended up realizing is these chants are really just prayers to God. And they're very repetitive. But when you convert them over into English, they're in Sanskrit, they're just prayers. They're just a prayer time to God. And what happened to me is one morning I started hearing God's voice. Now we hear that in the Christian walk like all the time. you know, have you heard God's voice, God's will telling you which way to go and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, I think maybe, sometimes.
God, is it a voice? I would have been like, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Right, exactly. But I literally started hearing a different voice, and it started to tell me, okay, I want you to make your own meditation, guided meditations, and chant music. Now, what an odd thing. I'm not a musician, right? I heard this every morning for about 4 months, and I finally said, okay, this voice is not going away. This must be, and it's called a divine appointment, where God will tell you, hey, I want you to do this. Or holy impartation, it has all these definitions, right? And so I was like, well, okay, I'll do it. And the second I said yes, I had these songs pour out of me. They would literally wake me up in the morning, and I'd have to get up and write them down. Or I'd hear them in meditation, I'd write them down. So what I've learned when you put this thing that happened to me together is biblically we're told that God has a purpose for all of us. And if we're listening, if we're kind of clearing and I'll get into this later, our soul and our thoughts, our mind out, and our heart is open, we can actually start hearing guidance from Him. And that's what happened. And if we say, okay, I'll do that, then you're given grace. And grace is this it's kind of like the supernatural, miraculous thing that happens, like the right people start coming into your life, and You're just you really are guided. So that's what happened. I started to be, I know, unbelievable, like just guided. And since then, life's a little bit easier because now I'm being guided, and it's not, I'm not like, there's not so much effort of my own going on in my life, because it feels like God's co-creating with me. And yeah.
It's beautiful.
Easy. Yeah. It's a real thing.
So how did you're guided and tell us what you did, or you had to write these songs? Did you had to make them use? I mean, did it really just happen that beautifully?
Pretty much. I mean, I met a musician right away, and I had a friend up in LA that I ran into at a party, and he's like, well, I've got a music studio. And I'm like, no. And he was a good friend of mine. I'm like, okay. We went up there, and he just happened to be this incredibly gifted musician with a recording studio. So I have 3 albums of devotional chant music that I've produced, and the music keeps coming, which is interesting. I have enough. And then a guided meditation, like learning how to meditate, like that. Now I know how to meditate, but I know how to teach it, not from an Eastern aspect, but it's more of a bridge between the Eastern and the Western religion. So it's more Christ-centered, my meditation, because Christ is in our heart. So it's all about how to just really meditate from this place. And so it's actually very interesting. That's YaLight, my company, just right behind you. It's so cute. Thank you. This word came to me, YaLight. Yah means God. Yahweh is God. It's the original name for God, Yah. And what I find is there really is this light of Christ in our heart. And that's what we have to tap into. That's where the inner power comes from. That's where we can heal our body, soul, and spirit. So this centering into this is, it's biblical, but everybody says it a different way. Like the Eastern religions are teaching it, merge the mind and the heart. Psychology is teaching it, heart-brain coherence. So somehow there's this level of truth and that you can tap into, right? They call it the unified field or the Akashic records. There's all sorts of names for it. And we really all have that ability in us to tap into this higher power, inner wisdom, this guidance that is benevolent. It seeks to do good in our lives and directs us in paths where we can serve other people. So it takes us out of this dark place, like selfishness or, self-destruction, or, where we're just repeating the same things over and over and can't get out of it.
Yes.
And that's, yeah, right. That's what can happen after any big trauma too, like a divorce. It's just really elevated. You're just stuck, like, oh my God, how do I get out of here? So there are these ways, and it's been taught like in a bunch of different ways. I just somehow was able to sit, and I still sit every morning and do this practice, and I keep a journal and I write things down, and I'm just literally, it just flows through me.
That's so beautiful.
It's kind of wild. It's very beautiful, and it's a real thing. I think everybody can learn to tap into this.
And one thing that you mentioned is when you finally accepted that you were hearing this guidance and you said yes, and then just the universe wrapped its arms around you and then just guided you to where you are today. That is something that I hear uh,
Mm.
so often. It's almost once you just accept, open your heart, um, just allow yourself to just be, opportunities arise, uh, kindness enters your life, love is better. Like, it's just such a lighter place. And I hear this so much from people, that once you get to that lighter point, that open heart ability, that the world changes for you.
Right. They've actually, there's a lot of people doing scientific studies and research on this, and they have enough people that this has happened to, that they can say exactly what you just said. This is like a real thing. People can have this in their lives. Now, it's a journey of getting there, and um, part of the journey, we talked a lot about this, and so we can kind of flow into this, is really getting to know what's obstructing you from that.
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. It's a practice, and it's something that, like, if that's what you really desire, then you dedicate some time to having a practice, whether it's I think meditation is really a big key. And it's, what is meditation? It's, you take yourself out of the world, and you set yourself, I call it a God spot, create a God spot for yourself. And I keep a candle. I make my God spot very comfortable for me. I have singing bowls that I like to do, a candle, incense, my journals, devotional maybe, and Bible, whatever kind of, you get in this spot, and you take yourself to that spot every day. And I chant, because chanting harmonizes your body. So now I understand mantra or chanting or singing, like you go to church or you're singing at a concert, all of a sudden your whole body feels better. Right? So you get this kind of harmonization between body, soul, and spirit. That makes it easier to meditate.
Okay.
So this is why I think, like, some of these practices around the world, you do the mantra or you do the chanting, and then all of a sudden you're in this space that feels kind of harmonious. And then it's easier to meditate, because if you just sit down and start meditating, it's difficult. So
Yeah, because my mind's constantly like, I would have to set my mind calm.
right. And the chanting calms the mind, because it engages the mind in the words of the chant. The chant is very simple, repetitive phrases. So now the mind kind of gets in this, like, this groove of its own, and your brain releases all these endorphins and chemicals, and all of a sudden, like, your body is relaxed. And so it makes meditation easier. But let's talk about that next thing that happens, which is what you just said, is the mind. Now, we've talked about, I believe, and biblically it says that we are body, soul, and spirit, that we live in a body, we have a soul, but we are a spirit. So this is what we're exploring in meditation, is really our human nature. So, like you said, you sit in meditation, what happens? What happens right away to you?
Well, I'll be completely honest. I don't do it that often, because I just need to learn how to do it right and do it better. I don't have my spot. I don't have my chance. I don't have any of that. And I just feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. So I'll tell you what you do. So you're going to take your body and you're going to sit it down. You're going to be still. You're going to, okay, my body, you're not going to move. That's right away. You're practicing self-control. So you're practicing what's biblically called the fruits of the spirit: self-control, patience, kindness, goodness, love, on yourself. right away. Like, okay, I'm going to practice these things on myself for 5 minutes. I could only sit for like 3 when I first started to meditate, but now I can sit for a very, very long time and it's peaceful. So what will happen is you sit your body down and the first thing that comes forward will be your soul,
Okay.
because that's who we are. Like, okay, here I am. Oh, here I am. You're paying attention to me. And our soul is our mind, our emotions, and our desires, our free will. So when you sit yourself down to meditate, you'll start to notice this. All of a sudden your mind will say hello and start thinking, planning, analyzing, because that's what our mind does. So you get to observe your mind at work. And if you haven't been observing your mind, it's going to be very active. After a while of meditation, your mind starts to calm down because it knows every day you're going to spend a little time with it. So it doesn't need like all this attention, like paying attention to me. It's like a little kid.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're paying attention to me. And same with, so our soul is our mind. So your thoughts start, and you just observe them. Just observe your mind. And then our emotions will come out too. So what's so interesting is during meditation, you don't even know that you're feeling sad or angry. Like you get up in the morning, take a shower, grab a cup of coffee, start your emails, whatever. If you take the time to sit with meditation, you might realize like, oh my God, I'm actually kind of sad this morning. And you can process that feeling out, and your soul loves that. Like, oh, I've been seen. I am feeling sad, or I am angry, or there is something, emotional that needs to kind of just be seen, and then it gets released. So when we see that, we heal it. We don't have to identify it. We don't have to name it. We just have to go, oh my gosh, I'm feeling something even this morning. And it tends to lighten up. That's that light going towards a darkness. That emotion was hiding in there somewhere. The light goes towards this darkness and sees it. And your soul is so happy, like, oh my gosh, I've been seen by you. It wants to be seen by us. Our soul wants us to see it and value it. And then you'll also, so you're sitting in meditation, then all of a sudden your desires will come up, your free will. Okay, I don't want to sit here anymore. I want a cup of coffee. I need to get my day going. I don't want. So you can just watch. So we're learning to watch and observe. And I call it befriending, making friends with your own soul. And you say, no, I'm just going to sit here a little bit longer. You can have a cup of coffee. And so you're kind of like, training your soul, because yeah. The soul is also called, like out there, it's called the ego. Like, people are saying you got to surrender your ego. It's the same. We have to surrender our soul to a higher power. And that's the third part of us, that's spirit. So in meditation, it's kind of as listening, observing, watching, practicing kindness on yourself. Like, oh, I'm sad. Oh, okay, I have compassion for myself. So it's meditation is work. Don't let anybody fool you. It's not like, oh, you get all blissed out. It's not blissful until you've done some of this work on your soul. And your soul really starts to calm down. It's like that inner child that's always like, I need you, trying to get your attention through a body pain or an emotion or the same desire over and over. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And after a while, because you're just sitting with your soul, like you would a child who's needy, after a while, the child's not so needy. It's not so active. It's not acting out. So in meditation, that's the work we're doing, is really loving ourselves. So self-love. Self is also soul. Soul love, self-love, it's the same thing.
Oh my gosh. I have just had so much peace just listening to you. I haven't even done anything yet. That's just incredible. And there's got to be so much comfort in your ability that you're there. and you're taking that knowledge and experience and guiding and life coach, and you have people that you're helping. It's just like there's a part of me that just wants to be like, okay, I want to be just like Tonyah. I want to feel like Tonyah does, because it seems so fabulous.
Yeah, it's pretty fabulous. Your podcast is Shannon confidential, right? I mean, it's confidence. You're trying to teach women confidence. And I think that, when you have that inner power, then you know your soul, this is where confidence is coming from. Like you don't have to please anybody because you love yourself.
I started trying to do that a long time ago.
Yeah. And you're listening to your path and you're following it, and you're on the right path. That's confidence. You're able to tell your personal truth. That's difficult, right? But when you're sitting with yourself in meditation, part of it is like God's spirit is called the spirit of truth. It's biblical. It's called the spirit of truth, count guide. So a lot of truth that sitting in meditation, there's truth that's been buried even, that's the hard part of meditation. Some truth from the past might come up and say, you buried this truth a long time ago. It's still in here. I need you to just acknowledge that it's in there. There's the light going to that darkness in us again. And all of a sudden that thing from the past, that trauma or that emotion that's been buried in the darkness for so long gets released. And that's truth. That's your truth. That's why I can sit here and say, yeah, I went through a divorce. I had an eating disorder. Speaking truth is where we get our authenticity from.
I believe that. I truly believe that.
Yeah, it makes us unique. My truth is going to be different from your truth. And it's so nice. It connects us when I can share my truth with you, or with, say, an intimate relationship. Like maybe in meditation, I'll hear like, my God, I'm feeling manipulated lately. Where's that coming from? Well, it's coming from maybe the relationship that I'm in. And then I can speak that truth. Hey, by the way, I'm feeling manipulated. And it's not threatening to the other person, because you're not saying you're manipulating me. It's like, my truth. This is what I heard this morning. And you kind of learn to just live in this truth that kind of keeps you liberated. Yeah. And truth also is known as light. So when you tell the truth, you're taken from that darkness out to the light. So your vibration kind of stays up here, telling the truth, seeking the light.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah. And the other thing I didn't mention is that I'm a registered dietitian. So you and I talked about that, and how that works in with all of this is I was working in the field for a long time, the eating disorder field, body image field. And I noticed that you can focus on the body and eating a whole lot, to the point actually where it's almost a distraction, where you're not getting deeper to these parts of you, like your soul and your spirit.
That makes sense.
So, right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, you're just focusing on, what are you eating? What does your body look like? How can I make my body better? Why do I have these critical thoughts in my mind? And those critical thoughts, by the way, are those thoughts that I'm talking about that are stored in the darkness in your soul, that you begin to say, that's not true. I'm not fat. I'm not unworthy. I'm not unlovable. And they start to just disappear, because you're hearing those thoughts and you're saying, no, it's not true. It's not true. It's not true. And they go away, and they're less likely to drive you because they're not so buried inside of you. So with the feed body, soul, spirit thing, like it's really important. Like you learn to feed your body, that's important. But you have to also learn to really, what's your soul? What does it need? Feed your body. And what is your spirit? And what is your spirit like as well? So spirit likes things like nature and laughter and love and stillness and beauty. We have to feed our spirit a certain amount of that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's so true. There's, and I don't know if this will transition over, but I know, like, happiness, laughter. First of all, it's just the greatest sounds on earth is just someone laughing, or one of my greatest feelings I feel is when I'm doing a huge belly laugh. But I also love I call it getting dirty, just getting outside. The only noise you hear is just the birds, the nature, the leaves in the trees, hiking, just being in that moment and just getting dirty with getting back to nature there. And you come home from that and you just feel so much better inside. Like, I don't know if it's the fresh air or just the world just giving you a great big hug. It's just, I love what you just said, because I know when I experience that and let my body experience those emotions or those sights or those, I feel better.
Yep. Well, you think about it like in a bigger sense, like we're part of God's creation. As a matter of fact, we are the elite of God's creation. We're supernatural, divine. We have a divine aspect living in us, spirit, and we have a human aspect, which is soul and our body. And when we take ourselves out into more of God's creation, which is nature, we're really just part of it. We become it's expansive. It feels good to us. It's like, oh, this is really where we belong.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We belong in with the birds, like it's the Garden of Eden, right? It relaxes us. And of course, there's all sorts of scientific things about being in the fresh air and hearing those sounds. And we have to, especially in this day and age where we're in information overload, right? And it's important to do, you just said it, like it's silent. You hear the birds, you hear you don't hear things actually, but you actually can get more in touch with your heart too in those places. It feels good. Yes. So you have to have this feed your body, feed your soul, your mind, your emotions, and your free will, your soul, and know what that is. And feed your spirit. It has to be a balance. And this is what I realized as a dietitian, working with so many people, focusing on their body, what they're eating. And, some people got better, but a lot of people still really, really struggled. And I realized, well, you just can't focus on one part of us because we're multidimensional.
I was just going to say, we're multidimensional people.
Right. So making your lifestyle supportive of these facts is really important. And that can take some time, like restructuring your lifestyle according to what your soul feels like. You'll feel it every morning in meditation. Your soul will tell you how that day before affected you. So, if you go out late at night, I'm just going to say drink or whatever, you're, going through a trauma and you're kind of abandoning your body, soul, and spirit, right? You're just numbing the pain, which is in our soul, and you're distracted, and you're kind of running away from the truth. you'll sit in meditation in the morning and man, everybody's yelling at you. Your body's yelling at you. Your soul's yelling at you. Your spirit is like weakened. So you begin to realize like this journey of self-love is because you're listening to how life is, how your experience of life is affecting you. And little by little, you're like, I'm not going to do that to myself.
Yeah.
Right?
It's very self-destructive.
Yeah. And we can really be, we're our own worst enemies, but that part of us is our soul. So that's why it's really important to know your mind, because like a lot of people do these things, self-destruct, because they don't like the thoughts in their mind. That's part of the soul. You have to kind of say, well, I don't like that thought, so I'm going to replace it. I'm in this, like, I love, and you don't just be thinking about taking things out. Think about what can you pour into the vessel, like new thoughts. And that's where, scripture or affirmations or having your mantras that work for you, it's actually really important to take your mind and renew it with higher vibrational, like Jesus, like the words of Jesus. I just like to give him a little shout out, but his messages were high vibrational.
Okay.
So things like, forgive them for they know not what they do. You just take that one and it can keep you at this elevation like this, because people will disappoint all day long, right? And you just say, well, I'm going to forgive them. Truthfully, they're conscious. They're not doing it on purpose. They've been patterned to do that thing or whatever. So in order to not be self-destructive, you need to know your mind. You don't like the thought, don't try to numb it, replace it. Get rid of the old thought.
I like that.
Yeah. And if you don't like the feeling that you're having, you're feeling sad or depressed, part of the emotional healing is you have to accept it. You can't judge it. You can't try to numb it, because it just will come back, or it'll get buried deeper. So when we accept our feelings, I'm feeling sad. It might last for 3 days. I'm feeling sad again the next day. The next day, I'm feeling sad. I'm going to cry about it. It'll go away. But if we just say, I'm not feeling sad,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Denial's not gonna work, that's for sure.
Denial, yeah. It's denial. That denial's very self-destructive.
Because everything floats to the top, so you can only deny it for so long. It's just face it, face your fears, face what you're afraid to face, to let it go. That there's power in facing it. There's far more power in facing it than in suppressing it, denying it, ignoring it. Because once you face it, it doesn't control you anymore. That negative thought or whatever that emotion is, as soon as you acknowledge it, well, okay, then what? It's not there. But it's
Right.
for so many people have such a hard, that seems like such a struggle, admitting something that might not be, that's hurting you or harming you, or you've been trying to suppress. Admitting it is, people think, oh, no, if I ignore it, I could keep control of it. And the fact is no, it's controlling you because you're ignoring it. You really want control. Acknowledge it and let it go.
Oh my gosh. So that's the key. And that's actually the key to a prayer practice. So I teach, my practice is a devotional chants. You chant for a while, then you meditate for a while, then you end in a prayer. After you kind of worked all this stuff out of your soul, you feel like you're kind of in this little space, and now you really are connected more to your spirit. So spirit to spirit, God's spirit connects to our spirit and our heart. And prayer has actually been proven to work. And I kind of look at it as, thoughts are molecules of energy. They just are. They're creative. Our words are creative Our thoughts are creative. So if we can direct our thoughts into kind of a focused, like intentional thing, then we manifest a lot more out in the world or in our physical body. So with prayer, we're doing what you just said. Like, we'll admit. I like to start out with everything we're grateful for. So it's you get into what I'm thankful. Thank you for this day. Thank you for my body. Thank you for thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And getting this, that gets you in this, that's a higher vibrational thought. So now all of a sudden you're like, oh, and in gratitude, it feels good. Next, I admit. So I really look for anything that I can admit where I'm struggling. And when we start to develop this intimate relationship of admitting where we're struggling with I call him God, but you might call it the universe or the creator or whatever, the higher power. When we get into this pattern of admitting where we're struggling and we get in this intimate relationship, it feels so good to be real with somebody every single day. And it's lifted off of you and out of you. And then biblically, we're promised, if we admit things, if we admit our mistakes or struggles, in the Catholic Church, it's called, if we confess our sins. Sin just means mistake. Confession is just admitting, communicating. We will receive grace and forgiveness. So every day, if you can just say, yeah, I'm really struggling, I'm drinking too much, or I've gone back to drinking, or I'm struggling in this, being codependent in this relationship, or whatever, you admit that. And then there is this like grace that sort of comes in and helps you with that situation. And you can even ask them, I need more strength. I need to communicate better. And you can ask. So it's interesting. The more you have this like kind of an intimate relationship with this higher power, with God, it actually makes it a lot easier to be intimate with other people.
I can absolutely see that.
Right? Because you're practicing being intimate, actually. And intimacy is, thank you, Shannon. I'm so grateful for you. And then, I admit, like, well, I had a little stress about this, this podcast with you, and that relates. Now you're like, oh, that's okay. I'm relating to you. And so it really does. I think the more we can get comfortable with admitting, but it has to be to people that we can trust. So, we can trust God all day long. He's working on our behalf. And, you learn who you can trust out in the world. Don't just tell everybody anything, right? That's a big risk. You definitely, just tell the people that you can trust your deepest things, darkest things. That's what a therapist is for, or best friend, or right?
Yeah. Certainly not just a new person or a complete stranger, because that'll haunt you.
It really will. Or they'll come back and, I was married to a narcissist, and there's this whole thing. Yeah, everybody's like, oh yeah. Yeah, right. At this point, we all know what that is almost. Hopefully we know the signs of that, but they're very good gaslighters. So you'll say, I feel this, or, I'm struggling, or whatever. And no, you're not. And they'll really make you question your truth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you need to know who you can tell and who you can't. But you can always tell God. And there's a level of freedom. Like Jesus says, the truth will set you free. But that's another one of those higher thoughts. Like, that's a good one. You need to have those like Jesus thoughts in your head on some level, like telling God the truth, telling yourself the truth, telling people you can trust the truth. It really does liberate us. There's an energetic quality of like, oh, I feel lighter, better.
Yes. even when a person comes to you and tells you a truth, and in this peaceful, open way, not like, so no one's attacking you or anything, but when someone comes to you and they give you that, just that true, open statement, and you can tell when something like that comes from someone's heart,
Mhm.
there is a lighter acceptance. Not that you have to accept or deny someone else's truth, but you almost take it in and hold it, and you're more gentle about it because there's so much sincerity and openness and purity to it that there's an appreciation that you immediately know someone trusted you with that. It's almost a positive emotion when you receive that truth.
Mhm. That's so well put too, because if we can just learn to listen from our heart, that's what heals people too, is, really they're healing themselves by getting it off their chest, literally getting it out of their body. That's healing. And then to have somebody just, listen and say, wow, no comment needs to be made, it's a little bit of an art. Like it took me a while to learn to really like what you're saying. The way you're saying it is to tell my truth from my heart, and without like any like like you made me feel this way. Like I had to get over that.
Yeah, there's no you involved.
Right, right, exactly. It's like a sincerity, like I feel this way. And it's just received so much better on the other end. And it's just true. It's true. It's truth.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I've just been one when you're just, if whatever you're saying, when someone says something with so much sincerity,
Mhm.
even even if what they're saying is not something you understand or agree with, or you could completely disagree, but something about that pure sincerity just makes it okay.
Yeah,
Does that
it's
make
it's
sense?
it's funny too. I mean, we can even see it out in the world, like leaders who they might get mad, like at Gandhi or whoever. Like he was passive, but he was angry, and even like say President Trump. Sometimes, he says the strangest things, but sometimes it just was like truth, and you were like, well,
Exactly. Sometimes you're like, well,
okay.
it's truth. At least you know where someone stands.
Yeah, you can receive truth a lot better. So, and that's actually what makes up, I think, a lot of the mental illness is when people can't tell the truth. So they're lying, they're manipulating, and you can kind of begin to see, to say this, but like around you, people who are a little bit still, I would say, unconscious.
Okay.
Not exact, some are actually have mental illness, but you can see it clearly. And it's helpful because then to have good boundaries. So I think really doing all of these practices, like there's just so many benefits that you get from, I call them spiritual technologies.
I like that.
Yeah, is growing your spirit. So that's the strongest part of you, not your soul. You don't want your soul to be the strongest part of you, the ego or your this part it's kind of unstable, right? Like our mind's always changing, our thoughts are always changing, our emotions are always changing, and our desires are always changing. So the soul, like we have to befriend it and listen to it, but we don't want to be led by that part of us because it's kind of unstable.
Yeah.
And
Trying to stop the cycle.
it cycles too. Like a thought will lead to a feeling, will lead to an action, and then the action will lead to a feeling. So like, but that can be called insanity. But to get out of your face, out of that, is to be grounded more in spirit. And the qualities of the spirit are patience, peace, self-control, kindness, goodness, truth, wisdom, strength. So to be grounded more in these, I call these all, they're individual higher powers, right? Like God's a higher power, but there's all these individual higher powers that we want to be grounded there, not in our soul. And we can manage the soul from those higher powers. Like, yes, I'm going to have self-control. You know, if my desire is to eat that donut right now, you know, and you manage that, it's interesting, from a higher power, like, you know, some wisdom, self-control, not today, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to wait, patience. So,
It's just there's no downside to this. These are all beautiful, beautiful emotions and feelings and strengths.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
I have to say, okay, there's some really lucky people out there that have worked with you. You have become their Christ-centered life coach, or are practicing with you through YaLight. How does someone, I'll put up, in the show notes for this, how anybody can contact you and follow you or research you. But how do you work with them? Is this something that you do, like we're talking through Zoom? Is it over the phone? Is it, how does someone work with you?
You know, I like to give the person the choice. Like some people don't like Zoom.
Okay.
I'll do whatever. I'll do phone consults or Zoom, however. Um, so on my website, YaLight.com, there's a contact, or there's actually, it's the work with me, and there's an appointment schedule that you can make to work with me. So I have that going on. I also run a divorced Christian women's Facebook group, and we have like 670 women in the group, and we do challenges, grief challenges, or so if you're a divorced woman and you're needing some support, you can join that group. And I am going to be releasing a book this year on my practice.
Okay.
So, and one's going to be a book, kind of a deep dive into what I'm talking about, and one's going to be a workbook. And I never wanted to write a meditation book that was thick, it just doesn't ever make sense to me. Like, here, meditate, read this book. And that's what ended up happening. I'm writing this book about my practice, and it turned out to be kind of long. So I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. I want people to get into the practice right away. So there's going to be a workbook with the book, and that's actually going to come out first now, so that people can get like, how do I do this right away? How do I sit? How do I meditate? How do I end in prayer? How do I get to know my soul? So my book will be out, I think, by July.
Okay, so it's not too far.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then the workbook comes, you said, before it?
The workbook's going to be in July, and then the main book, it might take a little while to get out because it's like 5 times longer. But I'm a first-time publisher, and that's a whole new event to be publishing a book.
Congratulations to you. That's wonderful. I tell you, I really, really want your workbook. I want to take, as soon as we're done, I want to hop in the car and go run and go get candles and bells and incense and a carpet and just someplace to just sit. Like, I want to build my place, because I think maybe I'm just trying to do something before I need to build it. And then the rest of me will
I love that. That's what I tell everybody. The first step is to create your space.
And that's one thing I've never done, is created my space.
Yeah. And, at first the space was just at the end of my bed. And it was not a meditation pillow, because I couldn't sit in that like meditative stance, but I had, a meditation pillow and 2 other pillows because my knees wouldn't open. And it took probably about 2 years before I could really sit in that meditation posture. You don't have to. The goal is to be sitting with the spine that's straight, so that you can be alert yet relaxed. So if you're sitting in a chair like I'm doing right now, fine. Spine is straight, I can have my body relaxed, and I can stay alert with my eyes closed. So you don't want to do it in bed because you can fall asleep. You want to be alert because you're going to be exploring your multidimensional nature. So yeah, make your God spot something wonderful. Like, I look forward to going to my God spot every day now. And I have a little room it's all dedicated. It's got a little couch for people to join me, or if I'm doing private sessions, it has meditation cushions, my singing bowls, which I love the sound of singing bowls in the morning. And that's sound therapy too. So you're doing a little bit of sound therapy on yourself, light a candle, light your Palo Santos or incense. And,
Like a check sheet. Make sure I get all these things. I want to make it perfect.
yeah, but it will. It grows and it changes. Find yourself a comfortable place where you want to kind of get back to every morning, and take your tea or coffee with you, and really make it this time. And what's funny is sometimes warning label, almost every morning you will resist going to your spot. So I've been doing this for so many years, and every morning I'm like, well, and I putz in the kitchen making my coffee or whatever. Resist the resistance, get to the spot, and then once you get there, now I find it hard to leave my spot. I find it hard to leave and start my day.
Happy, comfortable place.
Mm-hmm. It really is. It really is. And you're just, it's this joy that comes from really truly valuing yourself and your time with yourself, resolving inner conflict and becoming stronger, and biblically, like, if you have that faith to meet with God every day. So faith was the key. That's what Jesus teaches. Like, if you have faith in the unseen, then the unseen will work faithfully in your life. So it's really interesting. You have to have this faith that what you're doing is something beneficial. And it is. You'll see it. And then your faith becomes solid. Like, no doubt in my mind that for me, there's a God. He works on my behalf. And there's no way I'm ever going to give up that relationship ever again.
That's beautiful.
It's just too powerful for me. It works too well.
Yeah. Okay. I think everybody listening, watching, whatever, let's all go get our stuff, have our space, start to work with Tonyah, and the world will just be a better place. There you go.
Hey.
Does it sound good? I have to tell you, just listening to you talk just makes me want to go out right now and just get started. Right?
Oh,
It sounds doable, and it sounds wonderful.
mm-hmm. It's definitely doable. We have, and people will say, I'll say, what are you hesitating about the meditation practice? I don't have time is one of the big things. Well, I was getting up at 4:30. So what's interesting is you can set, I don't get up at 4:30 anymore, maybe 5:30 or 6 now, but you can set your alarm earlier and just get up a little bit earlier. And what's interesting about that is you'll sleep better at night. So some people are like, I can't sleep at night, I have insomnia. I'm like, set the clock earlier. Oh, still having insomnia, just a little bit earlier. And by the time that night comes, you're tired and you'll sleep better. And working on your soul like that and getting the mind and all this stuff free, it frees your soul. So at night, it's not like all this turbulence. When you lay down and you're still, you're doing that stillness practice in the morning and getting it all out. Makes your day feel more peaceful, and you're more clear-minded, and people will see it. People see like, she's kind of peaceful every day.
Yeah, that's so it's almost magnetic.
Yeah.
When you see something happy, peaceful, that just any type of brightness, you just want to be around people like that.
It's cute that you use that word because they use it in the Bible, like that Jesus, Mary said, "My soul magnifies the Lord." So what that means is the light. So her soul, our soul, is magnifying the light of Christ. And that light, it attracts people. And that was what Jesus had. He had this light that just attracted all sorts of people. So if you want to be an influencer in the world, if you want to do something good, especially, I mean, everybody should give this a try because you want to be a light for your children or your mother, father, whatever, people around you. But if you really want people to also follow you, magnify that light. And it's attractive. Yeah, I don't mean like physically attractive, but something about it is, like you said, it's light and bright.
They pull those type of people, when you're around them, they just pull you in, and I'm just saying metaphorically, pull you in. It really is I love being around people like that. You get more energy. It's just, I don't know how to describe it other than I love it. It's just, I could, like, when I'm done talking to you, I'm going to talk about it all day. It's just going to make me so excited. I love being around that positive energy, that kindness, that goodness, that sincerity, that open-hearted person, the laughter, whatever it is. I love being around. I'm just drawn to that in people.
Yeah. Well, isn't that a great thing? And honestly, if we're all trying to make that journey, you know, like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. And you know, right now there's the fight of good and evil so prevalent, like everywhere. And what side do we want to be on? We want to choose it consciously and then practice it so we become it. It's like a guaranteed thing. So, and really, we've got this one short life to live, and it makes it so much better to be, you know, it's not that we're not going to struggle. I don't want anybody to ever think like I don't have struggles in my life. I do. It's just I know how to go and process them and get direction. And you don't get caught in the pain and the struggle so much. You're not caught in it
and overwhelmed by it. And then those thoughts, those negative thoughts are then affecting you. And you got to get yourself back out of that circle.
Yes. Right away. Like if you've got a thought that's creating a heavy feeling like depression, explore the thought until you can twist it around into something that's more truthful and more beneficial, and you'll see all of a sudden the emotion will change as well. So it's all related.
Oh gosh, I have to tell you, Tanya, I know I had a great time in our intro call, but this is just to be able to speak to you this way and just to dive deeper into what you do, how you do, why you do it, the purpose behind it all, and what it will lead to is I've just enjoyed this so much. I don't even know how to thank you.
Well, you did. You thanked me by bringing me on your show. It's just a wonderful thing that you have this desire, this calling, and this platform to bring forth this stuff for an audience. It's just a really wonderful service that you're doing. And I'm really very happy and privileged to be a part of something that you're doing.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. Wow. Didn't see that coming, but boy, thank you. That was very kind. And that's going to really, that hit me right here. So I just thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Well, keep up the good work, and that's all we can all do, right? Keep up the positive attitudes, and
yeah, we need more of it these days.
Mm-hmm. Stay faithful. Like I do think there's a bigger plan always, that it's leading us into something better, even though we get buried beneath all of the minutia and the wars and the pandemics and stuff. But there's good happening in the world. There's a lot of good happening. stay focused on that too.
Yeah, be part of the good.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Well, I again, thank you so much for everything you said, everything I've learned from you, being such a beautiful inside and out guest on Shannon Confidential. I know I'm better just because I spoke to you, and I am going to implement a lot of what you said.
Yay. Well, that makes me really happy. Just knowing that you're going to do that right away.
Absolutely.
Let me know how that works.